Assalamu alaikum everyone. This is Exhibition Jet Sabir Shah for my YouTube channel Aviation Cadet. And again, I will talk about flight 202, 28th of July 2010 that got crashed in Margala Hills, Rawalpindi, Pakistan, Islamabad. And the captain and the first officer, I'm going to talk about them today. Now, the first thing is this report. This report was 37-page report, by the way. It was the first air crash report published in Pakistan. Before that, there was no history of any reports. So it was the first of a kind, and only 37 pages on PDF, if you check it out, and in 67 pages, the A4 size paper. And again, I'll talk about the culture. The culture is to cover a few people's asses up who still stay alive, and how can you cover their asses up for their mistakes that you blame it on a dead person who is a pilot, of course. And again, a pilot is to be judged at the end of the day because of his miscalculations. They would have ended up nicely if they wouldn't have miscalculated. So miscalculation error, I always give it to the pilots, but you can't say it's totally solely it's the pilot's error, and that's what pisses me off. So in AirBlue case, the same thing happened. Like the way in PK 8303, I said so. The report says, this AirBlue's report, that the first officer was intimidated by the captain because the captain had 28,000 flying hours and he had more experience and he was the captain, so he intimidated and by saying harsh words. Sir Montajib was from Pakistan Air Force, flying F-16s. You know, a cadet at the age of 18 is given a whole aircraft after flying 13 hours in Pakistan Air Force. And that's what Sir Montajib went through. Sir Montajib was one course senior than me. He was from 98 GDP and I was from 99 GDP. Okay, but he got commissioned 6 months before us, but they got enrolled a year and a half before us. So they were 3.5-year course, we were 2-year course. In between, there were no courses. So he was my immediate senior. He was my squadron mate, lived in Squadron 1. And he was my PFT mate. We both were flying for Primary Flying Training Wing 1. He wasn't my BFT mate because for some reasons I was transferred to BFT 2 because you have 2 wings there as well, BFT 2. And he was in BFT 1. But I know the person from what you can say from my joining until he got graduated. One of the most humble people I've ever seen in my whole life. He always was, whatever, right now he's not in this world, so whatever I would say, people will think that because he's dead, so that's why you're praising him. No. He was an F-16 pilot. F-16 means the cream. We say that the cream of the nation joins Pakistan Air Force, and the cream of the pilot, cream is milk on top of the milk, right? So the cream of the pilots go to F-16. And intimidation, by looked up, down upon, this is part of the training. Even in my 13 hours, we had a pilot who used to hit people. And even one of our course mates, I won't say the names again because I haven't taken his permission, but this event is famous in Pakistan Air Force as well. He was beaten that badly that his face when he landed, we couldn't recognize. Now, is it okay to beat your kids, beat your cadets during the flight? Questionable, debatable. The Pakistani aviation world or Pakistani Air Force world is totally different from the whole world. Now, should it be like this or should it not be like this? A separate debate, a separate issue. But you need to know that there are many things which are against the aviation rules, and yet we do it. Yet it is a common practice in Pakistan Air Force and in our Civil Aviation Authority as well. 18 years of age, you're given a plane and it's not supervised solo. After 13 hours of flying, imagine that. How many other countries do that? Please comment in the comment section below and code it. And people tell me that this person, he was intimidated because the captain said something. Now, what were the conversation which is given to the public? Which we are asked to learn everything by heart. once we join PFT, the primary flying training, the BFT, the basic flying training, then FCU, the fighter conversion unit, and then the OCU, the operational conversion unit, and then we end up in the squadron after almost 2.5 years of flying. Then you have a crew room where you can sit tight for next 3 years, and then your squadrons get changed. All this time, you are never allowed to keep your checklist on you. You see, you see people wearing G suits and they have checklists here, and the checklist is for laymen. Checklist is the steps and procedures which tell you how to start the engine, for example, and you have to follow these steps. Okay, you got get this button on, this button off, and push this knob and pull that knob out, and then this is whole procedure written on that. Every aircraft carries a checklist, and we are told to remember that by heart. Now, in Civil Aviation Authority in Pakistan, this is not a practice. It's just like the other airliners. You have to carry this whole checklist on you. But we are told the ways to remember those things, especially the common emergencies, which probably could happen to you. And every morning we have briefings. Every morning we have seatings. We have the emergency sessions, and where the pilot, he comes and talks about system of the aircraft, and we just talk about the emergencies with the cadets every morning before flying. This is a practice for every single day in your flying, and it carries on even when you become an officer. That's a normal practice. So everything is in your heart, in your mind. Now, should it be like this? Again, questionable, debatable. But that's how Pakistani pilots are groomed in Air Force. Here, memory. And that's why before that, if you go, the ISSB, the Inter-Services Selection Board, they pick up the people who have good memories. Okay, who don't have dementia problems, who don't have this Parkinson problem, who don't have this Alzheimer problems. Your medical is done, so everything is checked up so that you are mentally stable to be a Pakistan Air Force pilot. Now, that person, under that tough training, under that kind of environment, you are telling me that an officer, a captain asks him, okay, what are you going to do in terms of this emergency? So he says, sir, I remember it by heart, which is a very normal thing for him. Now the captain should be a little bit, under pressure. Oh. What did the captain say? If you look at the report, the captain said, oh no, you should follow the checklist. Exactly. Well, if I know the procedure by heart, I would still definitely follow the civil aviation laws and authority, and I would double check with them. But I remember, ask me, shoot. And there's no conversation with that. And I'm sure there was. I'm sure that the captain had been checking his verbal, his to the spot, his memory check would have tested, and I'm sure that Sir Muntajib would not have disappointed him. But the law is that you have to follow the checkbook, the checklist, or not the checkbook, the checklist, and he has the checklist on him as well in case of emergencies. So normally, what do? If you have any problem, the captain is checking you, he would ask you. Okay, so the first officer would just open the checklist, and he just needs to memorize that what emergency is located on what page. That's it. And if a person who can, spin checks, right now I would say, till to the day, it's been 30 years of 27 years when last time I flew on March 13th, 1996. That was my last day of flying. And so imagine 27 years later, I still memorize my base leg checks, my startup checks, my spin checks. I can close my eyes and go, throttles either, rather neutral, straight fully back. Spinning to right, needle right, okay, full opposite rudder, count 1001, 1002, 1003, and stick ahead of neutral. Now the rotation stops, ease up on horizon, area from all sides clear, ease up on the horizon, and power on, period. Now I could go with the same speed which we used to show during our emergency sessions back then. Okay, but it's going to be like a tongue twister. But that's 200% on ground, you could get 100% on in the air. So that's what we would prepare, cockpit timing. Before getting into the air, you have to be 200% ready. No, that's impossible to achieve, but That's what it was. So Sir Montague could not be intimidated by the captain. Respect is always there because he's senior. 25,000 flying hours of the captain Chaudhry. Yes, respect was there. Definitely, because that's Pakistani culture. So this CRM shit that, oh, the cockpit's environment was not good. And it's very, yeah, that's for the civilized nations, please. If you look at the report, it's to attract the civilized world. In Pakistan, definitely there's a respect. Now, the Captain Chaudhry, if you go and Google him, you know, in 1971, he was a junior most pilot in flying a Fokker aircraft in East Pakistan, which is Bangladesh right now, and Indian aircrafts attacked the airport right at that time when he was carrying 27 passengers. And he dodged the fighter aircrafts who were also flying low level. And he flew from Bangladesh to Burma carrying 27 passengers. Was that an SOP? Was that allowed? Was that known to any air traffic controller at that time? And you are telling me that this captain, who has 25,000 hours now, and he was trying to land the aircraft through a procedure which was unknown to ADC, so it's wrong, so that's why he crashed into the mountain? Bullshit. That's also a wrong thing to say. Now, I will not talk about the consequences and what happened because that's going to make things longer. What I'm saying is this report is utter piece of crap. It's utter piece of shit. If you are saying that an Air Force officer can be intimidated by anyone, I mean, they're trained, being beaten, you know, apart from the family curse words, we are used to hear all this F you and, you know, all these F words and BS words. Very common. It's part of training. So even if you come up to me and say to me, fuck you, I would not mind it. Reason being, I have heard this word, this phrase, for thousands of times during my training period. And I know it. So if that's the most offended word doesn't make you offended, what else could? Just asking for checks and then you get into. And if you check the report, how many times did the first officer, Mr. Sir Multajib, my senior officer, my senior at Pakistan Air Force, how many times did he correct it? Try to, not correct. Again, I'm saying it was a joint venture. Whatever captain was doing, first officer was on board. He was just on occasionally he was saying, which is the job of a first officer, that okay sir, the minimum height to climb down is, let's say, 2,500 feet. It's not 2,300. Okay, he corrected, sir, we are going in a different direction. Correct, okay sir, terrain ahead. Okay, are you visual with the runway? Because he's sitting on the other side and the runway is on the captain's left side. It's a normal conversation. Every day in a single flight, these conversations happen. It doesn't mean that he was intimidated and he didn't object any of the decisions. Now, I went to that site because after a long time, I went to that site and paid my condolences to the captain, the crew, and the passengers. I was at the crash site, and I will just attach a few pictures. And the view from the crash site. It was not that a knob. Now, again, the thing, they said that a knob was not turned and then the plane wanted to turn right and it went left and up and down. Bullshit. Instinct, again. From joining through ILS for runway 30, because they had to make a closed circuit approach and land on runway 12. The pilot had switched between heading mode and navigational mode in between 11 times. I've calculated that one. And 11 times he did not have any problems. But once he forgot, a person flying 25,000 hours. I mean, again, my example is very shitty, but that is an example that You have been in one toilet for 25,000 hours or 25,000 times. And was there any chance or any time when you forgot to switch the light on? Or you forgot where the light switch is? I don't think so. That's just like, can't believe people get into this navigational mode, heading mode. It's a routine thing for them. You know, when they get the manual, and it's just fly-by-wire system. It's not like those old joysticks. No, it's just the most modern way to fly the aircraft, the Airbus A320, and then 321 and 322. So these things, again, I would say that the reports are meant for civilized world. See, and then again, the creativity. Where does it come from? Now, in civilized world, all these landing points and joining points, people are assigned to do that. There are certain pilots who just, for example, in case of rain, what are the standard operating procedures? So there are people especially assigned to do that. For example, in Air Force, the test pilots is a different breed in Pakistan. No, a pilot is all in one. He's going to fly acrobatic on 23rd of March, the National Day of Pakistan. He's going to fly a test pilot when a new aircraft comes in. I was a new test pilot on Karakram 8, the present Lionhearts. I had an experience of 50 hours only, along with my 7 other course mates, not everyone, 7 other course mates. We were 8 altogether. Symbolic number, K8, 8 number of first cadets flying that aircraft. So, I mean, what schedules do now, again, the acrobatic team. There's no acrobatic team in Pakistan. It's any pilot who goes to FIS, FIS branch where you become an instructor. Now again, instructors are different people in all other parts of the world, in the civilized world. In Pakistan, that same pilot has to be instructor as well. He has to be the acrobatic team leader as well. He has to be, once he was a cadet as well, he has to be an instructor as well. So this is a whole combo. A pilot in Pakistan Air Force is everything which the whole civilized world is divided their jobs into different things. So and we're trained to carry that burden. Another thing, it's not a big deal, but it should be like you should assign the jobs to the people who have learned those things in their lives and who have been trained to do that. So it should be one job for one pilot, but here everything is together. And same is the case. The creativity comes once you start doing the new things in Pakistan Air Force. So if he came up with a way to land the aircraft through the unknown procedure to ATC, which you think he broke the rules. So back in 1971, when he flew out of Bangladesh Dhaka airport to Burma airport, was that procedure known to ATC? That's called creativity. Although I won't recommend that to the civilized world to go and pull a Django out of something like this. No. Follow the book, follow the rules, period. But your report in Pakistan should also be, by the way the plane was flown. So this investigation still needs to be completed. The FDR data, even the report says, it was not accurate. There was a lot of damage to the black box. So CVR and FDR, and back then, like 13 years ago, the recording time was only for 30 minutes on the equipment on those aircrafts. So last 30 minutes record. So how could you come up with something between the captain and the first officer happened in the first flying hour from Karachi to Islamabad? Doesn't make any sense. The FDR data was destroyed as per, and again, I don't want to go into the details like PK8303, how they initially portrayed this accident as soon as the crash happened and how the media started working. Pilot's fault, pilot's error. He wanted to fly over the dangerous zone, a no man land. That was not a no man land because it was high. No, that was a no man because there's a presidency over there, and that presidency has been finished. when he wanted to fly the right-hand downwind for to land on runway 12. That presidency doesn't exist since 1986. So it was just a normal procedure to land through the other side of the runway. And that day the clouds were thick on that side. So he just asked the ADC guy, okay, could I use the other way? It was very smart to ask. But because it's a red zone. Why? That presidency, even now it's a women's university. It's not even a red zone anymore. Because our dictator, Mr. General Zia-ul-Haq, used to live there, so no one could fly over there because people could have bombed him because he had been a victim of ground-to-air shooting twice, and the third time he got killed. So that's why it was not allowed to fly. So ADC should have, now on the record I'm saying, should have let them uh, use the first approach because the pilot knows how he's going to land. It's not the ADC guy who's sitting in a room watching that machine blip, 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 and he's going to instruct the guy, no, you can't do that. Where was the tower at that time? Again, the tower was missing too. The guy on the tower was not there. And this report, again, is a piece of prep. And I mean, there won't be any full investigation of that case has been closed, but these were my 2 cents. I could go on and have a video. I mean, it's already 35-minute long video, but these are my words. This incident would have been on me if I would have joined this. Probably. That's why it's very significant to me, and I don't think that the pilots were responsible for this crash. Again, in the end, miscalculation by the pilots. But there was a machine error involved, and there was a ground error involved for not giving them clearance for landing on those, under those conditions with low clouds and everything. Thank you all. See you next time. Allah Hafiz.